solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies, magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, yet without our brains and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies, magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever, solidarity forever, solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, yet without our brains and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies, magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, yet without our brains and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies, magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. inspiration through the workers' blood shall run. There can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong. They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn, yet without our brains and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, for the union makes us strong.
That works just fine. Let me just log in. All right, we've got two things for you this afternoon. The first is our grievance package, and I did just email these off as well.
Okay.
There it is. So we're getting closer and closer on this one. So I'll just focus on the areas where we're not there yet. Oh, I guess we are here, but I'll call this one out. So on 24.1.3, union representation, we previously had proposed all this language here in blue, but in light of the conversations we've had at the table about what discussing the grievance means practically, we're willing to withdraw that language. So thank you for having those conversations with us.
Great.
So you had this, in the section about verbal warnings, you added in some language about when they'd be void and removed, and we don't think it makes sense to have that discussion here. So what we're proposing to do is to have a reference to section 6.8.5, which is the section on removal. And then related to that, we brought that section in, or so making some proposals to make some changes here to speak to your interest. First piece is to change the title, because even in the existing language, it's about more than just removal of materials. So this section at the end on written warnings notes that if an employee hasn't requested removal, then we won't consider the disciplinary action after 2 years. And so we basically added that same language in here about verbal warnings. So we've already got in here the verbal warnings would be removed at the employee's request after a year. And so just put in that same piece that they wouldn't be, even if the person hasn't requested it, they wouldn't be considered at all after that time. So we think that meets the interest, but kind of keeps it in the same section that is discussing that for written warnings. In the steps, the only portions that we've taken out are that the grievance remedy would be considered won and upheld if there's not a response within that time. We've talked about this one a lot before. This is just a total non-starter for us. So that is out here. Same thing on step 2. And everything else is as you proposed.
All right. We do have one question.
Sure.
So what we had talked about last time too is what is our, when we're having a backup where a lot of deadlines aren't being met by OHSU in this world, what is our remedy aside from filing a ULP, which doesn't seem like the best way to handle things? So I totally understand that you guys don't like that remedy, but it seems like there must be some remedy that we can agree to that doesn't resort to us just filing ULPs when the deadlines are repeatedly not met by OHSU. I mean, it seems like it would benefit both parties to have some kind of plan for that, because it is a chronic issue.
I mean, I think that we do have the piece that's in there, right, with respect to just moving it to the next step. I mean, beyond that, I think it's conversations with HR and LR about, are there things that can be done to avoid that issue?
I mean, we've been having them for a long time, and they continue to go past the deadline. So, I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, does that mean our next step is that we just need to start filing ULPs, which just doesn't seem like the greatest strategy? I mean, we can do it. I just don't think it's.
Yeah,
I think we're here at this table to try and make plans so that we can avoid situations like that.
And that's partially where, I mean, we certainly heard, and we see it too, right, that there is more time needed in the process, right? So we have basically increased all of those, in some cases, 7-day deadlines, but more often 14-day deadlines to 21 days. So there is a lot more time in that grievance process now to have the back and forth. And we can talk about it more in caucus about whether there is, some sort of meeting or something, but the idea of an automatic remedy of the severity that you're talking about, we're not open to at all. So we'll keep talking about whether there is another way to try to avoid it.
Okay.
We certainly don't want to ask you to file ULPs against us, but we do recognize that there needs to be something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the other thing I'd say is there is an automatic remedy for you guys if we don't meet the deadline, which is that the grievance is dropped.
And there is there is for you too. It just moves to the next step, right? Which is you may not see as
where it could languish for another however long is part of what happens, unfortunately. I mean, I hear what you're saying. It's just that the process hasn't been working like that, and that's not even entirely I'm not saying that's even intentional on OHSU's part, but it is what is happening often. And so it just seems like this is the time and place to see if we can come to the table, both parties, and find a mutually beneficial solution to that. So just my 2 cents.
We'll keep talking about it then. Thank you. And then we have some non-package proposals. So first up is 6.16, access to pager communication systems and equipment. On this, we did put back in the very limited circumstances in which someone could be required to use their own device for access to that paging system, which again are kind of yeah. Thank you. So limited reasons someone may need to use their own personal device around really things outside of OHSU's control for a limited period of time. This next piece, I think we've gone back and forth here. We tried to go with a version of your language here. This is about, what happens if there are shared communication devices. And your language back to us was that no one would have to deliver or pick up one of those outside of regularly scheduled hours. So we were okay with that concept, did add in just this caveat that unless it's the employee's action, so if somebody forgot to bring a shared device, we think it's reasonable in that scenario to have someone have to do that and potentially outside of regularly scheduled hours, since that wouldn't be on OHSU. But otherwise, it's your concept.
Is that paid time?
I think it would depend on the circumstance, right? If someone is on their way in on a commute in an unpaid status and realizes they forgot, or somehow there's a communication, that would not be. If someone is working, it could be. I mean, it really is going to kind of go along with the general portal rules.
Yeah, so I get that. I'm just wondering, I was at work. I worked my whole shift, my 12 hours. I'm exhausted. Oh, crap, I have the phone. And I call back and I say, oh, hey, I still have the phone. And the employer says, yeah, come on back and bring it. Is that paid time?
I think it is probably going to be paid time, but I need to check on that.
Yeah, that's what I think. I just want to, we're trying really hard to make sure that we have really clear language for folks. And if there's a way to, I totally hear what you're saying, and I think fair.
Yep.
But yeah, just figuring out how to make sure that that fits. I don't know how easy that will be, but. Not
bargaining against myself or saying what my team would agree to, but I will just note that our last proposal did have this wouldn't happen on unpaid time. So there may be something there.
Yeah, I mean, I think about the unpaid time was the issue of those people on salary, right? Because all of their time is either paid or unpaid, however you want to define it in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll keep talking through that too. Thanks. And then replacement of non-shared OHSU devices. So we previously were not open to having anything about this in the contract. We are willing to. We're proposing that it would be just following OHSU procedures to request a replacement. Those procedures, I believe, call for the potential replacement every 3 years, not 2 years. But we're willing to put that in. And then use of vacation. I feel like we're very close conceptually on this. I think it's just a matter of how do we write it out. And so we tried to take a little bit of a different tack after the conversation last time. We don't think we need entirely different language for employees that have flexible work schedules. So we tried to come up with something that would apply for those that are scheduled versus not, which is simply that FTE employees that don't work schedule, well, maybe we've got the word scheduled, maybe we don't need that in there, would use the number of hours calculated by the proportion of their FTE that they miss. So whether someone is scheduled or not, if they're missing half their FTE, then they would be using the number of hours that equates to half their FTE. And then for relief, we took an approach that is similar to what we did in, I think, even some of this morning's proposals, and used a 6-month look back at the weekly hours worked as a way to try to be a little more clear than just the average rate of hours. I think, as you told us, there are some that are working seasonally, or maybe it's not consistent. This is a more consistent look back period, so we know what that FTE would look like. And that's it. Any other questions? All right. Did that provide enough time for the admin on your proposals?
Yes.
Great.
Just give me one moment. Hate everything about this setup. Okay. All right. First, we have 6.6.3, failure to reach agreement. So we are passing back language that we have previously proposed, that if a supervisor and employee cannot agree upon performance expectations when a workload has increased, that the Labor Management Committee should be consulted. And if no LMC exists, then it should be referred to the Market-Based Wage Committee. I know that OHSU's rationale the last time this was passed was that the LMC, I actually wish that it were still written here so that I could quote it, didn't have the person power to do this. We firmly believe that this is the job of an LMC. They want to do this. They don't have the FTE, but we have proposed language that would fund a position for this. We think that it is incredibly important for our membership, and so we are passing this back. Then for 6.14, performance evaluations, we are looking to withdraw this and go back to current contract language.
Okay.
15.1.2, relief employees. So we had passed 15.2 earlier today about insurance level eligibility, and then when we looked at this document, there was a note that OHSU was accepting the language passed in 15.2. If that is the case, that calculation for relief and flex employees to calculate their eligibility, then we have a TA on this. So I just want to be very clear. This is contingent upon 15.2 as we passed this morning on calculating relief and flex eligibility is accepted.
Okay,
I
got it.
hope that makes sense.
Makes sense?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get back to you this afternoon about that.
Okay. Then. Okay, 17.2.3, employment outside of the bargaining unit. We are passing back with the caveat that people who leave the bargaining unit, they're leaving to do work that OHSU needs. It's basically a favor to act as to fulfill a role in management. And if they come back to the bargaining unit, they should have the increases that are provided in Article 8 when they return to the bargaining unit. That is what we want. We feel like the language really got out of this. Went off the rails. That is what we want. If they come back to the bargaining unit, we want them to get the provisions of Article 8.
Is there a statute, like a limitation on that, or just, so somebody becomes a supervisor or manager for 10 plus years and then decides to come back, then we would,
Yeah, no break. Yeah, no break in employment, which is the current contract language. Yeah.
Okay, forgive me, but just a quick question. So based on what you said, Jenny, and it says who move to a non-bargaining, so if they chose to apply to a position and leave the bargaining unit, would that also be included, or is just if the employer moves them?
If the employer moves them.
Okay, thank you.
Our discussions have always been about those who are doing a favor for OHSU when they are asked to leave the bargaining unit and fulfill a management position when they come back. This has always been short-term positions. Yeah.
That's why I said, please forgive me, because I was like,
Yeah, no. If Susie Q decides she wants to be a manager and puts in an application, and that's different. This is someone who's a temporary position.
so this article, as it currently stands, it doesn't address progression increases. And so we have interpreted this to mean for any type of movement, so that if they're applying for positions outside of the bargaining unit, or if they are, if applying or any other reason. So that's not just like hey, can you step up and be an interim supervisor for 6 months and come back, right? So we're talking about any type of leaving the bargaining unit, taking a position, and then potentially coming back. And so just want to note that that's been our interpretation of this article as it currently stands. So we'll probably need to talk through how that would work from a compensation perspective.
Yeah, just to follow on what Wes mentioned, it sounds like the intent is as if the language were bargaining unit employees who the employer requests or requires to move to another job.
Or volunteers.
Right, but
yes.
yeah, but from
We aren't
yeah,
talking about
applications
me
and
and I go and apply to be a manager, and you guys are like, she's horrible. But I can go back to my old job.
Okay.
That's not what we.
Yeah, I mean, are you saying that people who voluntarily go outside of the bargaining unit to a UA position and then apply and come back to our bargaining unit, they retain previously accrued seniority? Is that the current practice?
Yeah, so if you're, let's say you're just AFSCME represented for 5 years, and then you became a UA supervisor or even some other type of UA for 20 years, and then you go back to a AFSCME represented position, you'd have 5 years of seniority under that current language as it stands. And so I think we're kind of mingling concepts.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. So maybe, when we get to in a counter, we'll talk about breaking those out.
Yeah. Okay. So 23.6, unauthorized absences, we have a TA there, as long as the language looks right on your end. This would be a TA. Then we have a response to Article 2 already. We are okay with the omission of designated representatives if we are okay with all of this language until, I'll pick up when we get there, but we are okay with everything. Yeah, and I'll let me get there. So here we go. There is a rationale here. We are okay when it comes to the officers with omitting the minimum effective FTE for relief and flex employees for all of the officer positions. And we are okay with having the union cover the full cost for the secretary and treasurer time if OHSU is open to paying for the cost of the chief steward's release time. And we maintain that the chief steward's work is, the vast majority is that of a unit or a union steward, and that is work at the employer's behest. Then, let's see, 2.4.1 is all the same. Paid release hours is fine. The next change is regarding here in 2.4.3. We are okay with admitting designated representative from the first portions of Article 2 if we can have it in writing that members working with stewards regarding investigatory meetings, grievances, or pre-dismissal meetings will do so with no loss of pay. We feel like that strikes what we need and is also in the interest of not having designated representatives stated. And so here under chief steward, we have struck through half of the chief steward release time will be compensated by the employer. For new employee orientation, we have in line 23, we've unstruck up to 3 union, and then we have member leaders shall be released to attend NEO session on employer compensated time. We hope that this addresses our concern of being able to have somebody in the union who isn't necessarily designated as a steward being able to be released to do NEOs, just like a steward would.
So are those on employer compensated time mean they're using the pooled hours, just like the
If the
current one?
employer will allow us to, yes.
Yeah, we actually, you may not have seen it, we sent a revised version that kind of addressed that issue.
I did not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think conceptually that works. I'll take a look at the language.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next item that we have is for reporting, and we hope that we are making headway here, that for traveler and agencies workers supplied by the employer's primary staffing partner, the employer will provide the classification, number, and FTE of current travelers approved, the departments they work for, and the rate of pay. That is the information we want. We don't need to call out that it's Aya, just the primary staffing partner is fine.
On FTE, would you be open to hours equivalent?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thanks.
Unless there's any objection. Okay.
And you've got partners with a potential S, right? You've heard our struggle with respect to moving beyond that. Is that intended, understanding we may not want to call out Aya, is that intended to go beyond Aya?
It's if in the future there are, so we had a conversation. Let's say Aya supplies 51% of the bargaining, the staffing. Technically, that is the primary staffing company, but we feel like that isn't exactly indicative of, like, that would skirt past the spirit of this language. Also, in the future, it may not be one staffing partner. We wanted to put in the S in case there are multiple.
Got it. But this is, for the current state, this is not
For the
intended
current
to go
state,
beyond Aya.
we're okay with just Aya.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to ask? Okay.
Just like to call out, we do really appreciate backing away from fundraising and membership drive. And then for union leave, we are open to the employer maintaining current contract language. We would like to have, if a manager is open to waiving the limitation that someone can come out more than every 3 calendar years, as long as the manager is okay with it.
Got it.
And that we are also open to the language for 2.13X, union officer leave. After lunch, bargaining days are just really difficult for me to articulate anything. And then the same, 2X, the additional officer, we agree to this language.
Okay, great, thank you.
Everything else is the same. Then we get to Memorandum of Understanding 6, services for employees whose primary language is not English. We have a TA. We are okay with the language about the disciplinary actions will first consider what necessary translated material or information have been provided. They're still highlighting here, but nothing has changed. That we are agreeing to the last proposal from OHSU.
Great.
And the same from Memorandum of Understanding X, consensus agreement reporting. I think there's just, if this was not an oversight, then it's just for grammatical usage. And that is it.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
I think we'll want to confirm those TAs. I think maybe the consensus one was part of a package, but I'll take a look.
Okay.
So we'll get right on that.
Okay.
Just seeing if I've got anything else in my notes. And on 15.1.2 and 15.2, this is not a question on the language. This is the one about the relief and flex insurance eligibility. Did you find that we had actually accepted it? Sorry, we were working on something else. We didn't have a chance to look at that yet.
In our notes, it said that you all were accepting of that language.
Got it.
So as long as you all agree that you accept that, then we can have a TA.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So I will make sure that's on the list check
Yeah.
right now. I don't think we're likely to have anything turned around by 4. Could we, unless you have anything else, could we have a short sidebar on the scheduling issues we talked about?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you. Today, there was a lot of back and forth today, and it was a good day.
I agree. Yeah. Okay. And are we done streaming, Sean?